Imagine waking up tomorrow and discovering that millions of people all believe in the same person, not because they were forced, not because they were threatened, but because they genuinely believe that following him is the right thing to do. That sounds impossible. Most people think manipulation only works one person at a time. A scammer tricks one victim. A cult leader recruits one follower. A politician convinces one voter. But history tells a different story. Sometimes one person can influence millions. That's exactly what Friend does in 20th century boys. He doesn't simply manipulate people. He manipulates an entire civilization. He rewrites history, changes reality, turns fear into loyalty, hope into obedience, and enemies into believers. The terrifying part is that almost everything Friend does has happened before in real life. Today we're breaking down how Friend manipulates millions, why the human brain falls for it, and how these same psychological techniques still shape the world around us today. Before we analyze his psychology, we need to understand who Friend actually is. Friend isn't the strongest character. He isn't the smartest character. He doesn't possess supernatural powers. Instead, he wears a simple mask, and somehow, that mask becomes more powerful than a face. Millions of people worship someone they barely know. Children admire him. Adults trust him. Governments fear him. That seems unrealistic, until you remember something. Throughout history, people have followed symbols far more passionately than individual human beings. Flags, religious icons, political logos, corporate brands, masks. A symbol never grows old, never looks weak, never reveals fear. Friend understands this better than anyone. His greatest weapon isn't himself, it's the idea of Friend. This is probably Friend's greatest psychological weapon. Human beings naturally simplify reality. Instead of remembering thousands of complicated details, our brains create symbols. A flag represents a nation. A logo represents a company. A crown represents authority. The mask represents Friend. Notice something. Friend rarely needs to convince people personally. The symbol does it for him. Psychologists call this symbolic leadership. Once people attach hope, identity, and emotion to a symbol, criticizing the symbol feels like attacking the person themselves. That's why arguments rarely work. People defend identities, not facts. Real-world examples are everywhere. People wear sports jerseys, political hats, luxury brands, religious symbols. These objects have almost no practical power. Yet they influence emotions, because symbols organize identity. Friend transforms an ordinary mask into something sacred. At that moment, he stops being a man. He becomes an idea. Ideas are much harder to defeat than people. One of the oldest manipulation techniques is creating a shared enemy. Friend constantly reminds people that danger is everywhere. Without danger, people stop needing heroes. So every successful manipulator creates uncertainty. It doesn't even matter whether the threat is completely real. What matters is how people feel. Fear changes the brain. When people become afraid, they think less critically. They search for certainty, someone to trust, someone to follow. Friend positions himself as the only person capable of protecting humanity. History shows similar patterns. During times of fear, people often become more willing to accept stronger leadership and fewer freedoms if they believe it will keep them safe. Fear can make people seek certainty, and certainty often comes in the form of a leader. Friend understands this perfectly. Friend doesn't only control people, he controls history. He changes memories, changes stories, changes what future generations believe. Psychologists sometimes describe this through the power of narratives. The stories people tell about themselves, their communities, and the world shape how they interpret new information. If you control the story, you influence how people understand reality. Think about your own life. You probably remember your childhood through stories, your country through stories, your family through stories. Stories create identity. Friend doesn't simply tell lies. He replaces one story with another. Eventually, people forget the difference. This might be Friend's smartest trick. He never forces everyone. He creates conditions where people voluntarily support him. This creates commitment. Once someone publicly supports a leader, their brain naturally wants consistency. Psychologists call this the desire for consistency. People don't like admitting, "I was wrong," so they defend their previous decisions. The more they sacrifice, the harder it becomes to leave. Friend never needs chains. The followers build their own. Friend understands something psychologists have studied for decades. Children remember emotions more than facts. A childhood promise, a scary story, a hero, a monster. These experiences shape identity. Friend exploits nostalgia. He turns childhood memories into political power. That's terrifying because nostalgia lowers skepticism. People become more willing to trust ideas connected to positive memories. History, advertising, and politics have all used nostalgia to build emotional connections with audiences. Friend weaponizes it. Friend is fiction, but the psychology isn't. Influencers build communities. Brands build identities. Political movements build symbols. Cults build dependence. Scammers build trust. The methods differ. The psychology overlaps. That's why studying friend matters, not because he exists, but because someone using similar influence techniques might. Whenever someone asks for your loyalty, ask yourself 3 questions. Question 1. Am I following a person or an idea? Question 2. Who benefits if I stop asking questions? Question 3. If the symbol disappeared tomorrow, would I still believe the message? If the answer changes, the symbol may have become more important than the truth. That's when manipulation becomes dangerous. Friend teaches us one terrifying lesson. People rarely surrender their freedom all at once. They surrender it, one small decision at a time, one compromise, one excuse, one symbol, one promise, until one day they no longer realize they're following someone else's dream instead of their own. That's what makes Friend one of the greatest written manipulators in fiction. Not because he controls minds, but because he understands how human beings willingly give them away. If you enjoyed this breakdown, subscribe to Silent Requiem. On this channel, we don't just analyze anime characters, we uncover the real psychology behind them, so you can recognize the same patterns in the real world. Next time, we'll break down another mastermind and another lesson hidden inside fiction. Until then, question everything, even the stories that make you feel the safest.